Let's all raise a glass, let's give a thundering round of applause for Baldur's Gate 3, because they have won Game of the Year at the Golden Joystick Awards. Everyone wanted this. Gamers, RPG fans alike, they felt that Larian, that Baldur's Gate 3, deserved this win. The only doubt that may have been there is that the people voting on these sorts of awards, that they may not have considered Baldur's Gate to be mainstream enough to get the win. But it has happened. Everyone is happy. Starfield, on the other hand, walked away with the wooden joystick, otherwise known as Xbox Game of the Year, where they beat out other top contenders like Redfall. In seriousness, maybe Hi-Fi Rush fans could be peeved, but there was no Game of the Year for Starfield. They won the Xbox Consolation Prize, and the spotlight is instead rightly on Baldur's Gate 3. There is no stopping that train. Now, all of this is a bit of fun because how many Games of the Year awards are there? Every publication, whether it's an IGN, a PC Gamer, whether it's this Golden Joystick Awards, everyone comes out and gives their 2 cents. And all that really matters is how we as individuals feel about our favourite game. For me, I feel that Baldur's Gate 3 was the best game of the year. If someone disagrees, that's fine. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It is all subjective. But where I think this is really, really positive, and why I think this is all a good thing, why I'm excited to see Baldur's Gate 3 win these awards, is because most people interested in the game have already bought it. Fans of role-playing video games, Dungeons & Dragons enthusiasts, even just people who consume content, gaming content online, they are going to have heard about this, and more than likely they've picked it up if they have any interest at all. The only people who haven't bought it are normies. People who consider gaming a very small part of their lives. They don't care about random videos, people shouting to the heavens about how great Baldur's Gate 3 is. They're not looking for that content. However, if they're just browsing social media from now on, they may come across an article or see some headline that says Baldur's Gate 3 Game of the Year. And if they're just thinking about buying a game to kick back on the weekend to dabble in, it might be Baldur's Gate. And that's going to mean more success for Larian, more success for CRPGs, more eyeballs around it. That success benefits everyone because I want to see this be the start of something. I don't want to see it be an outlier. We had all that talk from game developers, salty publishers and devs like the Horizon Forbidden West devs who talked about, oh, this Baldur's Gate 3, gamers can't expect something like this again, they're entitled, who cares about Larian and the hard work that they've put in? It's all about us and how we need to have things nice and easy, which basically means not providing a smart, intelligent role-playing game experience. We can only supply something that's heavily dumbed down. I want to see this become the norm for gamers to expect titles like Baldur's Gate 3 in the future, and for these publishers to know that if they want to hit these numbers, Baldur's Gate 3, it has sold 20, perhaps 25 plus million copies, that they've got to put the work in if they want these accolades. If you want gamers to open their wallets, you actually have to produce something tremendous, something for gamers to get excited about. We need to make it the norm that these publishers can't just show a CGI trailer and let that be enough. Larian gave us the first act of the game to pre-purchase, and even if you didn't buy it, there were so many videos out there showing it all off, and this is before it had ever officially released. They basically said, we're happy for you to see it. If this exposes us and shows you that the game is not good, that is on us. But they showed off that whole part of that game, the first 20, 30 hours, because they were so confident, and they've gotten the rewards because of it. Maybe the idea that Baldur's Gate 3, these sorts of games becoming the norm, maybe that's a fairy tale, it's in my imagination, but hopefully it can be the start of something. And seeing them win Game of the Year, that might be the first step. If we have a look, it's not as if they were gifted this Game of the Year title. They were up against some very good games. You had Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, another quality Nintendo title. Nintendo just seemed to do things differently. Despite all the crap that goes on in the industry, even if Nintendo were anti-consumer with things like mods and all of that, they still produce good games. They're not pay to win. There's no nonsense in them. Good titles like Tears of the Kingdom. There were, of course, games like Marvel's Spider-Man 2. I only really hear real Sony fanboys get super excited about this. I hear from more neutral voices that it was worse than the first one. Makes sense that it couldn't push Baldur's Gate 3 out of first place. Jedi Survivor, the PC port is crap. I don't want to see that win anything. It's a bad game until they actually fix that up. It is not acceptable what EA did. It's still got mixed reviews on Steam. I don't know really what it's like on console, but on PC, I wanted to buy it when it came out. I wanted to support a good Star Wars video game. Fallen Order was pretty damn good, but they dropped the ball with this one, so no buy from me and hopefully a lot of others until they fix it. There's other good games here, like Resident Evil 4 Remake. We've spoken about Starfield. Unfortunately, Memeable Game of the Year wasn't a category this time around, but maybe next year. Other good games like Armored Core 6, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, heaps of fun, but none of them I'd say are better than Baldur's Gate 3. It is 100% a deserved winner. And it actually picked up a record number of categories as well. It wasn't as if Game of the Year, time to go home, Swen and the team, that's it. They actually picked up a lot of these golden joysticks. They picked up a total of 7 awards. Apparently that's a record. And first of all, they won Best Storytelling. For me, the main plot is very intriguing, but what really stood out was the companion stories. There's a number of companions, and they're pretty much all of high quality. In a lot of RPGs, there might be a handful of companions that are really interesting, but the rest kind of fall flat, or they're underwritten, or they're kind of rushed, and many companions end up just being warriors who assist you and make encounters a bit easier, but all of the companions in Baldur's Gate 3, they feel like they're part of your journey. They're coming along with their own motivations, their own reason to be there for the fight. I especially love how your companions will develop organically, because in many RPGs, even if you do have a relatively interesting companion, they'll often have maybe one interesting side quest, and outside of completing that, they don't really do a whole lot. When you try and speak to them, they've got the same dialogue options as from 40 hours ago. Nothing has changed, even though your journey has developed massively. You've probably been through the main quest, you've done a bunch of side quests. And it feels like in Baldur's Gate 3, your companions always have something new to say, whether they're commenting on events, and there's something that should naturally affect this person. These characters who are on this adventure with you, they will disapprove, they will approve of various things and events that go on, and decisions have to be made that will affect your playthrough. It happens all of the time, but even just going to camp, there's always something new to talk about. It's not just a one and done. Your companions are with you the whole way. They never become essentially just robots sitting there that you can totally forget about. They are along for this ride. They are heavily invested in the journey. Best Visual Design. Pretty impressive that a CRPG could ever win this category. I don't know if there'll ever be a game in the CRPG space with these production values again. Maybe Larian can do it, but I just don't know if any other dev is gonna really get the money to do it. It was super ambitious to go from, I know it's not technically isometric, it's sort of 3D environments, but it's got that isometric look like you find in the old Baldur's Gate, like the old Fallout games, Divinity Original Sin. But to essentially move to the traditional third-person 3D when you're in conversations, they didn't half-ass that. When I first played Early Access, things looked a little bit rough, and I was kind of worried that they'd made the wrong decision, but they absolutely didn't, because I think a lot of the mainstream appeal was from them taking that chance, from having those close-ups of characters' faces, and they really nailed it. This was pretty much AAA production quality. The facial animations were fantastic. I felt they really invoked the emotion of your character, and given yourself, you don't really speak a lot, they still managed to convey how you were likely feeling based on the responses that the player gives. It just came out at the perfect time to make comparisons as well, because you compare Baldur's Gate with Starfield, where the characters look absolutely ridiculous. You go for a walk around New Atlantis, and who do you see? You've got average Starfield NPC. They're like the clowns you see at the circus. You know where you can throw the balls in and they sort of go... That is the average Starfield experience. And even on the main quest, the main journey, not a lot is done with the main characters you meet. And that is really where you would expect the polish to be, for them to have actually put some effort in. But even there, no emotion is really conveyed. It simply feels like when characters sort of move their eyebrows, make facial expressions, it's totally random. It's got nothing to do with actually what is being said. It's the total opposite with Baldur's Gate. They nailed that side of it, the character expressions, the facial animations. And of course, the general visual design's fantastic as well. The different areas, the different locations, the set pieces, it all looks really good. Studio of the Year. I don't think Larian Studios themselves are talked about enough, the inner workings, because they have clearly got fantastic management. Most of the stories we hear about gaming disasters, whether it's an Anthem or even the latest Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, we get all these stories about what a joke it all is. It always comes from the top down. Studio of the Year. I'm not sure if Larian actually get talked about enough in terms of what a great outfit they are. They've produced a number of games in a row that have been critically, commercially successful, and they sound like a great studio to actually work for. People who are working there seem to say great things, and it comes from the management. It comes from the fact that Swen, the team, they're not just hidden away on the top floor and you can't speak to them unless you're spoken to first. It's clear they're in the trenches. Management are, for the most part, at least in Swen's case, they're developers first, they're managers second, they know how to support their teams, and a great product has been made as a result. So any talk about great studios, great management, I'd be looking at Swen first, seeing what they're doing. Other developers should take note. We see these disasters, EA, BioWare. Very recently, Modern Warfare 3 that people are talking about, a total disaster. Microsoft are taking over. Microsoft themselves can't get anything right. All their studios, they turn into duds. They were responsible in some part for Redfall. They could have pulled the plug. They didn't. Resulted in a totally shit game. Larian, meanwhile, are producing gem after gem. So maybe Microsoft should take note. Maybe Phil Spencer should fly over there, take some notes from Swen, apply them, see if he can do better. Best game community. I was a little bit confused about this category at first, but when I think about it, a big reason for the mainstream success is that strong word of mouth. Everyone online who's been basically telling anyone they have access to that you should buy this game, that it is worth your time. And I do feel that this will be the case in 20 years, that it's going to be one of those games. If I think about something like Bloodlines 2 that's coming out, there are so many Bloodlines 1 fans who are still invested. It has like a cult following, which is really nice. And I just know that in 20 years' time, it will be the case for Baldur's Gate 3 as well. There'll still be people playing, there'll be mods, there'll be new content coming out from fans. So it kind of makes sense. I can't think of another game released where you could say it's got this huge community who are going to support it for a long period of time. That is really good. Best supporting performer, as in voice actor, Neil Newbin. He is responsible for Astarion. And even though he wasn't really in my party, I didn't use him for all of the gameplay, so I didn't see him as much as some other characters. When I did speak to him, the voice acting was phenomenal, and that is really the case across the board, but there was something about the delivery of Astarion that was just very, very memorable, and I think it's what people are talking about. It's a well-deserved win. PC Game of the Year, Ultimate Game of the Year. As this person says, it won every award they were nominated for, and they were nominated for every award possible. It's fantastic. Starfield, on the other hand, did not have such a great time. Of course, they picked up Xbox Game of the Year 2023, the consolation prize. They were only up against Hi-Fi Rush. Redfall was not even nominated. They preferred to nominate the Dead Space remake. What's that got to do with Xbox? Not really a whole lot. But then again, PlayStation had Resident Evil 4 Remake as their win, so there's some consistency there. Starfield's come out on top for Xbox, but let's be honest, Todd and the Bethesda team, Microsoft, they would be super disappointed that Starfield isn't the biggest game this year. At least the biggest RPG. They couldn't even do that, which they must be absolutely livid about, and They're going to have to go back to the drawing board. I don't see how they have a Game of the Year worthy title while they do things the way that they are. Elder Scrolls 6 will have heaps of pressure on it. It's just going to sell a juggernaut amount simply on the name alone, because there are actually so many people, they're those normies I talked about earlier, who don't actually know that Starfield is a Bethesda game. They don't know it's the same team that made the Elder Scrolls. So there's going to be heaps of people who will blindly buy it, but Bethesda will know that if they're going to become an industry titan again, things are going to have to drastically change. They can't do a Fallout 76 countdown again and expect absolutely everyone to be pumped, because they are getting clowned on these days. They are seen as a joke. They're not the industry darlings. That is Larian now. It's not just the players saying that now. A few people online, the critics love it. The sales numbers reflect it. 20, 25 plus million copies. And now the awards are saying it as well. So no one likes Starfield. It's seen as lower tier. Baldur's Gate 3 is on the up. It's interesting to think about Baldur's Gate 3 because 3-4 years ago, when we knew that they were making it, people were actually pretty negative. Even around the time of early access, there was just this fear that it wasn't going to capture the spirit of the original Baldur's Gate games. It was going to be a Divinity Original Sin reskin. Some people thought that Larian were just going to put a Baldur's Gate coat of paint on Divinity, but they absolutely went above and beyond. They proved pretty much all doubters wrong. Anyone I've seen who was slightly negative has turned their opinion around. They love this game. And it proves that these developers, these publishers, can win fans over if they just do right by them. There's always this talk of, oh, you can't win with gamers. They always want one thing, and then you do that, and then they say they want another. It's not really true. They're excuses. If you make a great game, people will buy it. It's been proven. Baldur's Gate 3 has won Game of the Year. I'm not just talking about these golden joysticks. I mean with fans. Most people are saying it. They want more of this, whether it is DLC for Baldur's Gate, whether it's another game like it by another studio. People are going to be looking out for it. It hopefully means that CRPGs are on the up, and just quality games are on the up. No bullshit, no microtransactions. Keep the content all in the game. You earn it by doing the content, by achieving things in the game. It's what people want. People will support it. So thanks so much for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.